Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. We're going to talk a little bit more about Assassin's Creed Shadows today, and I want to pose a question out there regarding DEI to everybody. So, let's just cue up the music and we'll get right to it. So as you can see, as expected, the trailer is getting ratioed. It's almost, it's over 2 to 1 dislikes to likes. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Ubisoft is really taking a beating on this. I know their stock dropped almost the moment the trailer was released. There's so much backlash against this for having, look at that. Is that a woman or a man? You can't even tell in the trailer. You've got a female ninja. The ninjas weren't even, the female ninjas at least were more information gatherers, not warriors. And then we got a black samurai who's based on a real living, or well, was a living character that, was never a samurai. He was just a retainer and an oddity in feudal Japan. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about DEI overall and the impact it's had on society at large. And I got some thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And if you want to refute anything I'm saying or push back against it, feel free to do so, man. I'd love to have a conversation with someone about this. No one ever wants to converse about it. They just want to call you various ists and make ad hominem attacks and stuff like that and then walk away and block. Nobody has a valid argument. And I'd love to hear that. I'd love somebody to make me question what I feel and what I think on this. And so far, I've yet to meet that person. Maybe you could be the one. So, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's this big thing that's going on in the entertainment world. There's a lot of people talking about how, like, companies like BlackRock have an ESG score that's based on how many people you hire that fit certain molds in the DEI world. Are they black? Are they women? Are they gay? Are they transsexual? Are they this? Are they that? All these various things for whatever purpose in the long run, I don't know. But that's one of the things that people are saying. You've got a better chance of getting a loan as a company if you have a high ESG score rather than if you have a low ESG score. But the problem is these guys are doing that, right? They're forcing these things into existence, into games, movies, television shows, and so forth. And then very often these shows are tanking. Now, not all the time, but a lot of the times they are. Let's take a look at some big ones, okay? In and out of gaming. For one, Star Wars is one of the most divisive IPs in the world these days. Star Wars used to be beloved by Star Wars fans, and then if you weren't a Star Wars fan, you just thought everybody who liked Star Wars was a friggin' dork. And I loved Star Wars as a kid. I was 6 years old when they came out in the theaters, watched it with my pops, and saw all the movies in the theaters. And, I was the right age, man. I grew up with it. I grew up with the originals. When the prequels came out, I was kind of like, these are all right, but they aren't the originals. And then the sequels came out. The first one touched on the nostalgia factor and all that, but then it just got worse and worse as it went along. And then the TV shows and all, deeper and deeper in the toilet it went, right? There's one example. Another one in the entertainment world is the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And ironically, Disney owns both Star Wars and the MCU now. So, is there some kind of correlation there? Maybe, maybe not. But, yeah, the MCU started off great. Movies like, they were a little inconsistent at first. What was it? The first phase was stuff like Iron Man and the original Thor, which was okay. Iron Man 2, which was not so great, but it was still good. It was okay. Captain America, the first Avenger, and then the first Avengers movie, and the Incredible Hulk film that starred Edward Norton. That was really, it's like the MCU's kind of like stepchild, because it wasn't really part of the MCU, but it kind of was. And even though Edward Norton's gone now from the MCU and Mark Ruffalo took over his role, people still count that as part of it. And rightfully so, because some of those characters have come back since then and so forth. And it's referred back to that movie now. But in any case, yeah, the MCU started off a little inconsistent, but good, overall good. And we went through and we got into phase 2 and phase 3, and there were more hits than misses. And finally, it was almost like they could do no wrong, and then all of a sudden things started to change a little bit. And I think the main change was the addition of Captain Marvel. And I hate to beat a dead horse on this one, but Captain Marvel was an unlikable character played by an actress that was very unlikable in her role, and one of those typical Hollywood actresses that likes to go out there and talk to the press and denounce white men for some reason. Like, well, this movie isn't made for white men. I think she said something along the lines of, we need more movie reviewers that aren't old white men, or something like that. And it's stupid stuff like that really, you don't endear yourself to anybody when you say stuff like that. You might endear yourself to the weird little fringe lunatics out there that are all about this kind of stuff, but mainstream humanity doesn't want to hear that crap. Us white guys, we don't want to hear that crap. We're like, whatever, bitch. We don't really care what you think. And so, you shot yourself in the foot with your movie, and your sequel was even worse. You didn't even have your name on the sequel. It was called The Marvels, for God's sake. And you had to share the banner with 2 other actresses that really checked off some diversity boxes there. We had the black woman and the freaking Muslim girl. Oh my God, it was absolutely pathetic. And that movie just completely tanked. But that's another story. But yeah, the MCU has really taken a crap as they've become more of the MCU, as people are calling it, as they're replacing all the male characters with female characters. It feels like, She-Hulk made her debut. Looks like Hawkeye's going away, and his daughter's taking over the role, or that other girl is, the one played by Haley Stanfield, whatever. She did a great job, not gonna lie there. But yeah, it just feels like, again, this is that DEI culture, right? We're trying to get more diverse. We had Shang-Chi and the Rings of whatever, which was okay. It was nothing great, but everybody's like, oh, it's the first Asian, whatever. It was cool, And it's kind of funny because when in a situation like that, everybody lauds it because, oh, it's Asian, it's diverse and all that. But then when we move ahead to today and we release something like Assassin's Creed Shadows, where you have a feudal Japan, you have a black guy going around slaughtering the Japanese people. Everybody's celebrating that. Like, what happened to celebrating the Asian culture? I don't know. There's no consistency with this kind of stuff, and that's what frustrates me. So, yeah, those are some bad examples. So, Assassin's Creed has kind of fallen by the wayside through recent years. Even Valhalla suffered due to ESG. The second God of War game of the recent 2, the Norse stories, definitely had a touch of ESG in it, with Angerboda being a black girl. Fantastic actress, not taking anything away from her. Played the role beautifully. Her interactions with Atreus were amazing. But again, here we have Norwegian myth. She's a frost giant who were, part of the Norwegian myth. I don't really think they were pictured as black folk. I think a lot of times, a lot of the tellings, they're actually blue-skinned, of all things. But there's something else that's been kind of ruined. Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. We talked about that one. That game went right to the toilet. And before that was Gotham Knights. And before those games, we had these great Batman games, these visceral, dark, gritty Batman games like Arkham and all that. That were just they were fantastic. Everybody loved them, and they're gone. Now we have this crap, and it just seems like everything DEI touches turns to garbage, and it just falls apart and gets worse and worse. I don't know, how far these companies have to go before they realize that. Disney's live action remakes, they're all falling apart and going to crap. I mean, look at the backlash they got for The Little Mermaid. And now we have, I think Rapunzel was announced recently, and be played by an Indian actress. Just leave things well enough alone. It's one thing if something happens, right? Like you can't tell me anything. My challenge to you guys is to tell me anything that was improved because of DEI, okay? Any game that was better, or any movie that was better because you put a black person in a role that was normally the white person's role, or a woman where a man was, or a gay person or a trans, whatever, where you replaced a character with a diversity hire Name one movie, TV show, anything like that was made better. And do the same with the video game for me. I'd love to hear the argument here. And don't tell me The Equalizer, because the TV show was a great TV show, and putting Denzel Washington in the role of the Equalizer was a step up. But it wasn't because he was black. It was because it was Denzel Denzel Washington. The guy can't do any wrong when he's paired up with Antoine Fuqua and they make movies together. So, that wasn't better because he was black. It was better because he's a fantastic actor, So you got to come at me with something where the only thing that mattered was the color of their skin, their sexuality, their gender, or anything like that. Because that is what DEI is about. It is about hiring people based off of those factors. It has nothing to do with their skill set, nothing to do with their merits, nothing to do with their talents. Okay? Look at the very government that runs the United States right now. Let's look at our top position here, the president, right? Right below him is the vice president, Kamala Harris, who is the epitome of a diversity hire. Joe Biden himself said he will be hiring a black woman as his running mate. That was the only criteria he had. That's pathetic. She should be ashamed of herself, and she should have never took that position. But she's a power whore, so of course she took it. But, name something. Just one thing that's better because of that. I challenge you that. And if you can do that, then we'll have a great discussion on it. I'd love to hear it. Anyway, just some thoughts there on a Sunday afternoon for our Monday listen to. As always, I'm Cat the Beefy with the Game Vault. Thanks for stopping by. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell for notifications. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. And if you didn't, leave a dislike and go to hell. I'll see you next time. Until then, peace.